This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? How are we? It is Wednesday night and you're very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. We're going to be discussing the situation around Liverpool's manager because despite what some of the media have to say, I strongly disagree with any circumstance that believes Arne Slot stays as Liverpool coach in the summer. Fans just aren't going to buy into this, so the club can brief what they want, say what they want, to whom they want, but it still doesn't change the fact that Liverpool fans just want a change as manager, and that seemingly is the direction the club are going in. So tonight, I'm going to tell you why, with all due respect, and I mean that sincerely, I do strongly disagree with David Ornstein's comment on the Athletic podcast, but like I said, I want you to understand and realise I am saying this from a position of respect because I do respect David Ornstein massively. I just disagree strongly with the briefings that he's been given and that they're the truth because I don't believe that they are basically based in realisation and where we are as a fact. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about the situation with Ibrahim Kanade. We're going to have a little look at who Liverpool could be targeting in the summer. And of course, we'll have a chat around last night's game, of course, against Galatasaray, where it was all too familiar of a feeling getting a 1-0 defeat over there. So, as always, anything you guys want to discuss, this is your show. The floor is yours. Let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to get stuck into it. Right, so let's start off with the situation about what Mr. Ornstein had to say, and then I'll tell you why I think he's just incorrect on this one. But let me get to my notes for 1 second. Right, where are we? This one here. Right, so let me read out what Mr. Ornstein had to say, and then I'll tell you why I disagree with what he's been told. So, on the Athletic podcast, David Ornstein said, Liverpool, from what we hear, are steadfastly behind Arne Slot, and he's under contract until 2027. They want him to be their coach. The hierarchy are determined that he is the man to get things right. If they were looking at a recruitment process for coaches, he said to be the exact profile they would be looking for at the end, there is not people on the market that they think better suit what they're looking for. They're happy with him. I'm expecting this to go on and the club to get to the summer in whatever shape. I don't think talking about the head coach is on Liverpool's agenda at all. And like I said, that is very different to the information that not just me, but many others have been hearing behind the scenes. But let's just put this out there. Liverpool would want to be absolutely tone deaf if they don't take the pulse of their fans at the minute. Because I don't know a Liverpool fan that backs Arne Slot anymore. I know some that will be quiet and put up with it, but until the summer. The club should be under no preconceptions here. If they don't fire Arne Slot, they're going to lose the support of a lot of people inside that stadium and a lot of people around the world. Fans cannot continue to be taken for idiots. The failure is there right in front of you. They'll try to dress it up however they like. They'll try to talk about the 100 games in charge. I'm going to break that down and tell you why that isn't giving you full, perspective on this situation. Right, so let's get into the chat. Hello, Craig. How was your day? It was good, yeah. It was a little bit annoying. So we had a bit of concrete done in the front garden, and no sooner had the guys just finished the concrete and headed off than a cat decided, I want to walk across that concrete and put my little paw prints on it. So yeah, we had a bit of a scurry to try and fix that one, but thankfully it got fixed. So we're all good in that regard. So yeah, what do we think about that from David Ornstein? So I want to ask you, do you think that he will be still coaching the summer? Right, so do you think that Liverpool will keep Slot on as head coach next season? Because I promise you, none of this tallies with anything many other people I know have been hearing behind the scenes. And again, people aren't stupid. I really am reticent to try and say anything negative about David Ornstein because I really, really do respect the man. He's very good at what he does. I've never had the pleasure of speaking with him, but he seems like a pretty nice guy. And I'm sure that this is what he's been briefed. But it boils down to this for me. If the club are so steadfast in their belief that Arne Slot is the man to take them forward, that Arne Slot is the man to continue on Liverpool's evolution, then why haven't they put a new contract in front of him? Because they don't believe in him. It is that simple. If they really wanted to tie Arne down, they put a new contract in front of him, but they haven't. So I don't believe for 1 second that Liverpool are backing Arne Slot and believe that he's going to put it right. Now let's talk about these 100 games, because James Pearce seemed to, again, not read the room very well last night when he posted what was in itself a factual statement. He posted about the percentage in the wins of the first 100 games for Arne Slot being right up there alongside Kenny Dalglish. Let me give you some more context on this, though. So if we look at Arne's 100 games in charge, and congratulations, by the way, for hitting that milestone. It's an impressive milestone for any manager to be Liverpool's head coach for 100 games. But his first 50 games were very different from his second 50 games. So his first 50 games, Arne had 36 wins, 7 defeats and 7 draws, which is more than respectable. The last 50 games, very different. 26 wins, 16 defeats and 8 draws. And I'm sorry, but that isn't good enough for Liverpool's head coach. We've lost 14 games this season alone. So no matter what the club try to say to the world, or whatever picture they want to paint, Liverpool fans are not behind this manager. We're behind the players, we're behind the clubs, we want the club to do well, we want the team to be successful, but don't piss in our pocket and tell us it's raining. Arne is not the guy. He has proven it time and time again. He doesn't learn his lessons. We were god-awful last night against Galatasaray. And again, just you think this is Craig gone over the top again, let me tell you what some of the national media wrote about last night's performance from Liverpool. Let's start off with the Times newspaper, a pretty respectable newspaper. They say Liverpool are playing purgatorial football and their fans are condemned to watching the same insipid game week after week. The only question is whether there will be some sort of salvation after all of this. None looks forthcoming, not least because there were few, if any, redeeming features to this performance beyond the single goal deficit that Liverpool must hope they can overturn in the second leg at Anfield. In hostile conditions, Liverpool wilted. They had chances, but the Champions League necessitates playing with grit and verve, and Arne Slot's team had neither. Then we have The Telegraph, who said, for nearly a decade, Liverpool have leaned on Mohamed Salah when in need of inspiration. Here he was, hopelessly peripheral. He appears entirely unable to be the fullback, and it's striking to see such a potent player, fresh off a spectacular season, looking so diminished. Salah had more effective games when he played for Chelsea. He was substituted correctly after an hour for Jeremy Frimpong, signed to play at right back. When Arne Slot dropped Salah in November, it caused a diplomatic crisis on Merseyside, culminating in Salah saying he'd been thrown under the bus. Performances like this are as helpful as his comments like those, but he's hardly alone in under-delivering. It was a harrowing night in particular for Ibrahim Konate. So the media can see that Liverpool are trash under Arne. The fans can see that Liverpool are nowhere where they should be under Arne. But we're supposed to believe that the people that remove emotion making from the decisions think that he's the guy. Nah, I'm not buying it. Fuck right off. It's absolute garbage. There's no defending this. There's no defending it. The type of football we play is garbage. The manager looks fucking clueless. The players don't seem to buy into what he's doing. What more do the club need? They can brief all they want because he's their mate and they wanted to do well and he was their guy. But Liverpool fans are not going to put up with this continued failure. And we're not going to put up with being treated like idiots. Everybody can see we're not good enough. Any illusions that we have about this team going on to dominate under Arne are absolutely that. Delusions. Gary said, if true goes to show that FSG don't care about winning trophies, just how much money they can squeeze out of us fans. I just can't believe it is true, mate. I really can't for 1 second believe that is true. I can believe that maybe David was briefed that. I'm not trying to sit here and say David Ornstein's a liar. What I am saying is that isn't what we're hearing, that isn't what many others are hearing, and that certainly isn't what the fans want. I don't know how much more of this the club need to see. Liverpool have been absolutely embarrassing on occasion this season. So far away from where we need to be. And yes, there was probably some failures in recruitment. And yes, Hughes and Edwards need to have a look in the mirror and we need to have a conversation about that. But honestly, there are people who just don't want to watch Liverpool at the minute. And I'm not overstating this. There are Liverpool fans who just can't bring themselves to watch the team at the minute because of how dour the football is. And how uninspiring it is. Now, I'll never get to that point, but I'm going to have to think long and hard if he's still in charge next season because it's difficult. It's difficult to go through this every single week. It feels like you're banging your head against a brick wall and nobody's coming to help you. Fans being treated like idiots with Arteta stealing the Champions League in broad daylight. That was a joke. Oh my days. That Arsenal penalty was nothing short of a fucking disgrace. A disgrace. How VAR looked at that and thought, yeah, that's enough for a penalty. I mean, oh my days. Nothing against Arsenal. You know, it's not their job to referee the game. Nothing against Arsenal fans. But as a decision, you know me, I call it as I see it, and that was shocking. By the way, that Valverde hat-trick goal, oh my days. I hate Real Madrid. But that Valverde hat-trick goal was absolutely incredible. Sent Mark A for a pint of milk, then just banged it in for the hat-trick in the first half. Absolutely wonderful hat-trick. Did not this happen with the Matteo at Chelsea? Won the league, Mourinho's team, then pissed away and got sacked. Yes, now look, we aren't Chelsea and we do give our managers a little bit longer. But my fear is that he wins the Champions League by some fluke this season. You know, because that means we're destined to be stuck with him for another year. But look, is there anybody who think that we are trending in the right direction? Because it feels like every time we think we've turned the corner somewhat, there's another reminder that all it takes is one thing to go wrong and then the floodgates open. We lost twice to Galatasaray. Now, people will tell me that they haven't lost a home in the Champions League for X or Y amount of years. It doesn't matter. They're not that good. And Liverpool should have had a field day. What should have happened last night is Liverpool took the lead in the first 5 minutes and then Liverpool quietened down the stadium. Galatasaray get a little bit frustrated and then Liverpool looked to pick them off on the counter. But no, that's not what happened. And even in the game where we were looking to get something, he hasn't got the balls to bring Rio Ngamoa on and sticks with Cody Gakpo who has a fractured finger or arm or something. It's just every decision that this manager makes is one that leaves us confused and frustrated. Shay said, if Slot's here next season, I'm done. Like I said, mate, I don't ever like to speak ill of David Ornstein because I really respect him. I think he's a damn good journalist. But I think this is one of those doing what the club's briefed you to do, to put out a narrative that he, I'm sure, was told, but doesn't face reality. It doesn't. And FSG can't be looking at this. They're no mugs. Let's be honest about it. You know, they're no mugs. They didn't get to where they are by being idiots. And they have backed the manager. So, like I've always promised, when the money was there, I'm not going to start complaining about the owners because they've done some good stuff, a lot of good stuff. But I always wanted them to back the managers with more money. Now, many of us are thinking, oh shit, are they going to think, well, we've backed this lad with money and this is what happened? So, yeah. Greetings from Turkey, mate. Would you rate Yilmaz as a Premier League level winger? We're in touch with Virgil for the summer as Gala, by the way. You can be in touch with Virgil all you want. He's got a contract with Liverpool for another year, so that there's nothing to that one, Turco man. And secondly, Yilmaz is a good player. Look, I have a lot of respect for Galatasaray. I said it last night, I repeat it again. A great football club, great fans, always a difficult place to go. But yeah, I don't think we'll be losing Virgil this summer. So I don't think you should be exciting yourself about that one personally. But on Yilmaz, yeah, he's a good player. He's a good player. I don't know whether he'd be suited to the Premier League or not, probably because I haven't watched enough of him to give you an honest answer on that one. But certainly a good player who's had a positive impact for the Turkish national team and, of course, for Gala. What is this? Watsonnator said, I've not missed a game in 20 years and I need to step away and start watching again next year. I need to reset my brain. You're not the only one, mate. It's so sad to see. It kills me that my fellow Liverpool fans are feeling this disconnected. And also, they're not going to keep selling those expensive corporate seats if the football is dire and the fans have no interest. They're not dumb. So despite what might be briefed out there and what narrative the club again try to push, fans aren't stupid. Stop taking us for granted and stop taking us for idiots. Oh, 2-2 in the Chelsea game. Fair play. They seem to have some. They seem to have Paris's number, or at least they don't fear them when they play them. You know, they beat them and beat them very well in the Club World Cup. Anyone who watched that final can say Chelsea were thoroughly deserving winners. I watched the first half of that game and it was a pretty exciting open game end to end. So yeah, let's see what happens there in the remainder of it. We know that Paris Saint-Germain are capable of coming over and getting a result in England as well. So it's going to be an interesting one, that. But of course, they are potentially opponents for Liverpool in the next round, the winner of that tie, if Liverpool can get past Galatasaray. Right. So, Daniel Sturridge, on hearing about Liverpool's loss to Galatasaray, said, that's a surprise, isn't it? And Wayne Rooney responded to say, is it? Because was it a surprise? Maybe a surprise that we expected better, but you know, we've beaten over there once this season, so losing over there again, I don't think it can be classed as all that much of a surprise. So this coming in from the Juventus transfer room says Juventus are keen on Club Brugge defender Joel Ordonez. The Ecuadorian centre-back almost joined Marseille in the summer and was being courted by Liverpool in January before they confirmed the deal to sign Jeremy Jacquet. He is a good player, and if he goes to Juventus or anywhere else, I do think he'll come good. Now, it might take him another year or two because he is still a young centre-back, but a good player, Joel Ordonez. So, Romano said, and this, by the way, I don't have an issue with what Romano said. Let me read this out to you. So, Romano said, he is guaranteed that Alonso has not signed a deal with Liverpool and dismissed reports of a 3-year contract as false. While there is mutual respect between both parties, Liverpool will wait for a post-season internal review before making any decisions. So, some of that is right. There is no agreement on the 3-year deal. I don't know where that came from, and anybody who's saying that I think is misinforming, but there is certainly an appetite to bring in Alonso. And again, there's a reason where you're not seeing Alonso linked with many other clubs because, you know, the sensible play here is to bring him to Liverpool. And he's available and aren't a shit in the bed. So Romano isn't wrong in what he's saying. I've never been told and never heard that a deal was agreed or a deal was signed. So on that, I'd say he's spot on. So, poll open. Do you think Liverpool will keep Slot on as head coach next season? Have your say. Pasky said, I don't like the model we're in terms of transfers. It's like we've gone to the Chelsea model. Liverpool need experience, especially at centre-half when Virgil leaves. Well, on that, let's talk about the Canade situation, because David Ornstein was speaking a little bit about Ibu's situation, and he said, I think there's constructive conversation around that one. I do think there's a will on both sides, player and club, to try to find an agreement. It's not there yet, but the conversations from what we hear are continuing and are pretty cordial. Now, I hope we can get him to stay on, but if we can't, I agree exactly with what Pasky said. We need to go out there and bring in experience. Yes, we've got Jeremy Jacquet. Yes, we have Giovanni Leone, 2 young centre-backs. But if Canade goes, we need experience. We need somebody to come in there and be able to give Virgil a rest occasionally as well. Because Virgil cannot go and play as many games as he has and not pick up a knock. It's just rolling the dice. We've been blessed this season that both of them have been able to stay relatively fit. Well, pretty fit, to be fair to both of them. They haven't missed many games at all. Virgil, none. Grizzly said, is Slot only safe because Xabi doesn't want to come in mid-season? Love what you do, Craig. Safe to say Slot is the broccoli of managers. That I don't know. I always wanted him to be sacked, but I've never heard that it was imminent or anything like that during this season. I've said for a few weeks now that it's felt like that we're going to have to put up with him till at least the summer, and then we see what happens. Look, for Liverpool, it'll be a calculation of which is the better play here. Remove him or leave him till the summer and hope that we achieve some targets. The sensible play from the club's perspective is probably to just leave it. Now, us as fans, we might have a different opinion, and I certainly feel he should have been sacked after the Forest game. But if there's one thing I want you to remember, remember this. This is Liverpool Football Club. You're defending Premier League champions that have spent a lot of money in the transfer market, and we've lost 14 games already this season. 14, 1-4. I don't remember a season that Liverpool have lost that many games in, other than maybe the Hodgson era, if we even lost that many in that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this stands out to me. Like, this is a season where we broke the British transfer record twice in the summer. We're coming in full of confidence as defending champions, and we've lost 14 games of football. Again, let me reiterate some of these for you. We lost by 3 goals to Forest. We lost by 3 goals to PSV Eindhoven. We lost at home to Manchester United. We've lost to Galatasaray twice in the Champions League away. There has been embarrassment after embarrassment after embarrassment, and still this man's in a job. Oh, I think my mouse is dead. One sec. Yeah, I think my little mousey thing is dead. Come on, mouse. Come on, mouse. Sorry, lads. Give me 2 secs. We're going to have to charge this up here for a minute. My little mouse seems to be dead. I'll get to the super chats in a second, folks. Bear with me. My little wireless mouse seems to have died. There's a super chat from the guy 1000 that said, I know we won the league, but Slot comes off as an unlikable with how he blames everybody but himself. Yes, I agree with you on that. And I don't know how other people feel about the manager, but I don't know anybody who's disliked the manager this much other than maybe Hodgson. But at least, as I said, with that we could understand what was happening. What's going on at the minute is absolutely shocking. Like, we are so far from where we should be. And that midfield, that needs serious attention in the summer. I'm not saying we haven't got good midfielders, we do. But we're just too easy to play through. And there's just not enough bite and fight in that midfield. Right, let me just see if this is worked, yeah. It says connected, right, there we go. So yeah, let me bring this one up for a second just to say thank you. I'm going to just keep this charging for a minute so I can use it for a little bit. But let me read some of your comments. CPR for the mouse. Yeah, I know. I didn't even get a warning. Usually it tells me that the battery is dying down. But it's all right. I'll be charging away there for a minute anyway. We also lost 3-0 to Forest. Yes, exactly. We lost for the first time in, I think, like 100 years or something. We lost 3 games in a row by 3 goals or more. It's incredible. I really, look, does anybody disagree? And I promise you I'll be respectful in my reactions here and how I respond with you, because, you know, I want to know the viewpoints of somebody who maybe thinks this is over the top and the manager should be given more time. Honestly, if there's anybody in the chat or watching who feels that way, please let us know your thoughts, and I swear I'll have a proper conversation with you, because I'm not looking to jump down anyone's throat. I'm looking to understand different perspectives. I've been watching for a few years, but normally on the TV. Appreciate you, Lee. Thank you for your support, mate. Really does mean a lot. Can you imagine Liverpool get to the next round, get PSG? Arna's already on his knees thinking about it. PSG will absolutely batter us like a fish and chip shop. We're cooked. I'd say he only had a massive smirk on his face when he found out we got Man City in the cup as well, because, you know, he loves saying about how good Pep Guardiola is. So yeah, it could be his wet dream here. PSG in the Champions League, perhaps, and Manchester City away in the cups. That could be a wet dream for Arna. I agree, Craig. I'm outraged. He is a cancer, said Errol. Yan Diamande possible? Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Yan Diamande. I'll move on to talk about this in a sec. Sorry, I'm just letting my little wireless mouse charge a little bit here. Yeah, I'll move on to talk about Yan Diamande in a second, but he is our principal target in attack, so I think we can keep our fingers crossed on that one. I'm so excited at the prospect of him, by the way. He's an incredible talent. Right, let's see if I can get this working out. There we go. Elks said Slot seemed so much more humble last season. Has winning the league got to his head? I'd rather have Alonso and see his team. So, look, this is the way I look at it, Elks. When you're winning, it's easy to smile, and it's easy to receive the praise, and it's easy to get on. But as soon as our backs are up against the wall this year, you've seen the snidiness come out. The comparisons to Klopp, talking about seasons where Jurgen's done poorly, talking about he came in after Liverpool were knocked out in the Europa League. He just seems to have no self-awareness. Or else he just doesn't give a shit, one or the other. And I don't mean doesn't give a shit about the team, I mean doesn't give a shit about what he's saying. Because the amount of times I've been sent clips from people going, was this a real press conference? Did he really say this? Craig, with City on the verge of elimination, if we go to Galatasaray, will Liverpool still get Champions League spots? Or will England, sorry. Yes, look, England are pretty far ahead in the coefficient ranking. So I don't think there's anything to worry about in that regard for English clubs. Yeah, I think the 5th spot will definitely be coming to the Premier League again. And the last time I checked, there was quite a gap. So I haven't checked in on it lately, but I'll check in on it after this round of games and give you guys an update on the coefficient. I think we will get past Gala. Thoughts? Yeah, Almir, look, I said it last night, even in the height of frustration with how we were playing. I also agree that we get past Galatasaray at home. They don't travel well in Europe, and you've seen the capitulation against a 10-man Juventus when it got back to 5-5 on aggregate. Yes, they went on to win it in the end, but it's still in our hands, yeah. And if we show up at Anfield and we play well, which we can't play much worse, yeah, we'll get the job done, I think. But again, the real question here is, do we think that this team can go all the way under Arna, win the Champions League? And I just don't. I didn't even honestly think we were going to make as hard work of that game last night. I surely thought that we would have learned lessons from previously, but it looks like we almost froze out there on occasion. Virgil seems to think we didn't give up many chances, which is very different to a lot of the media and how they've responded to it. Do you just wait for me to start work? There's no noise in this house until I start work, and then my wife decides everything needs to be banged around the house except me. Right, where are we? Carbon said, "Hi Craig, how are you? I still think we should change the formation to a 4-4-2 diamond with Salah playing as a 9 to reinvent his form like Ronaldo." Look, do you want me honest answer on it? Salah should be on the bench, because that's no less than he deserves. That performance from him last night was absolutely unacceptable in every level. It was. Am I wrong, by the way? It was a performance that just looked as if he didn't give a shit. No, I know he does, and I'm not trying to say he doesn't, but it was an unacceptable performance. Like, look at any metric, any numbers behind it, and it was just shocking. Rob said, and they'll score at Anfield, so we'll need 3. Oh, don't say that to me, Rob. I'm having dreams of clean sheets, bro. By the way, what did you guys think of Galatasaray's second goal that was ruled out last night by VAR? I'd love to get your thoughts on it, because if it happened to us, I would have felt hard done by. Right, so we asked you, do you think Liverpool will keep Arne Slot on as coach next season? 81% said no, and 19% said yes. He's ruining what Klopp built and badly needs to go. Should be starting Robbo and Rio next week. Salah is being used the wrong way. Needs fast ball. So I don't buy into this Salah's being used the wrong way stuff. Again, he was given the ball last night in 15 yards of space with a fullback ahead of him, and he stalled up and waited and waited and waited for support. Instead of getting the ball down and running and taking him on, he just stood there and kind of half jogged and waited. That's not good enough. That's not acceptable for a wide player. He should be getting the ball down, taking people on, or attacking the space ahead of him. We got lucky. That goal should have stood. Somebody said 100% correct. He blocked Robbo getting back. I think that was a lucky call for us, but I can see both sides of it. I can understand why some people would say, yeah, look, because was he interfering with play? Probably. But I'd love to know, was that what it was given for initially? But look, either way, we got an awful one, and we still didn't really learn our lessons from it. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like Ergo being ruled out, I understand. It did come off Canade's elbow, as frustrating as that was, because it would have been nice to grab one back, but I understood why that was ruled out as well. Stevie Boy said, is it just me or are Mo and Curtis Jones not happy? Look, I don't know is the answer, but I can give you my perception of it. And yes, my perception of it definitely feels like, if I was to guess, and I have to underline, I am guessing, but if I was to guess, I would say Jones feels pissed off. You know, because I can't imagine for the life of me a world where Curtis Jones wants to join Inter Milan in January and leave his hometown club. That just doesn't feel right. So I don't know if anything has gone on, so I'll be a liar if I sat here and told you it did. But it feels as if it's not out of the realms of possibility, right? Is Slot afraid to drop Salah? I'm kind of torn on how to answer that question, because in one way he might think to himself, this is a headache that I don't need. But in another way, what's best for the team? So I don't think he's afraid to drop him. I think you've seen that before, that he's dropped them. But it just feels as if everybody's just playing through gritted teeth at the minute and just trying to get through. And the way I've tried to word this is, whatever we win, if indeed we're lucky enough to win something this year, my firm belief is that will be in spite of the manager and certainly not because of him. Look, how many times have we looked outthought on the pitch? You know, it's no surprise what Galatasaray were going to do. That should have been a field. Let me put it another way. Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool would have absolutely wiped the floor with that Galatasaray team last night. That game would have been 2 or 3-0 in 20 minutes with the way Gala opened up. They were making mistakes at the back. They were there to be gotten at, and we didn't capitalise on it, and then we got punished for it. Would you agree with that? That Jurgen's Liverpool would have attacked that game from the start in a very different way and would have smelled blood in the water? Because it was there. That game was there for the winning. They were nervy starting that match last night. They were giving away easy possession in their own half of the pitch. Their goal kicks going short and stuff were all over the place. But we didn't find a way to make that work for us. We didn't find a way to capitalise on it. Marcus said, not football related, but I've met a wonderful girl. She has autism, and that led me to read about it a lot and ask her. It's changed my view on it totally. Thank you for being open about it too. I don't think you're on your own there, Marcus. I mean, I'll say to you, sir, I was very ignorant to a lot of the stuff around autism before, I found out about mine and my son's. And then, of course, you educate yourself a little bit more. And we often talk about awareness, but that is actually something perfect to summarise autism. It is about awareness. I can't tell you the amount of times when I was, let's say, in my early 20s, I'd have seen a kid in a shopping centre having a tantrum and I'd have just thought it was a spoiled little child. Mammy wouldn't say no. But nowadays I look at it through totally different eyes. and I tried to, see if I can see any signals in that child that I had seen in my own, or in my own situation. So yeah, I'm so glad that you met a nice girl, and I'm even more proud of you for finding out more about autism, mate. Well in. Ashley Green said, "Is he actually safe?" So here's the thing, Ashley. David Ornstein, and let me read it out to you again, because I don't want to misquote anybody here. Here we go. This one. So this is from David Ornstein. This was him speaking on the Athletic podcast. He said, "Liverpool, from what we hear, are steadfastly behind Arne Slot, and he's under contract until 2027. They want him to be their coach. The hierarchy are determined that he is the man to get things right. If they were looking at a recruitment process for coaches, he's said to be the exact profile that they would be looking for, and that there are people on the market that there's not people on the market that they think are better suited, and that they're looking for. They're happy with him. I'm expecting this to go on, and that the club gets to the summer in whatever shape. I don't think talking about the head coach is on Liverpool's agenda at all." Now, it's not a secret that David Ornstein has some good connections to Liverpool Football Club, but particularly Hughes and Edwards, or Edwards, I should say, more so. So I've not in one breath tried to say that David hasn't been told this. I'm sure that is something he's been briefed, but I just don't believe it's true. And I don't believe that anybody believes it's true. Because how could they? How could a football club that actually want to win things accept a manager that's lost 14 times in this season alone? 14 fucking times in one season. Not one, lost 14 games. He's so far away from the level we need to be at. And the most, I guess, the biggest indictment of Arne is, it doesn't look like we're getting there. He was... See, when we had a small change in set pieces and we were actually a bit better, did you see how quickly everybody was to blow smoke up his arse? And that's just a few set pieces. We don't have a game plan. We don't look together out there. We don't look connected. The players don't look like they understand what's being asked of them. And yes, the players do need to take some responsibility for it. I'm not absolving them of responsibility, but ultimately it's the coach. Craig, may I ask if it's Asperger's? That's what my older brother has. It was rough growing up as younger siblings and parents focus more on my brother. Yes, but we don't use the term Asperger's anymore. It's now autism spectrum disorder, and there's different places on that spectrum. But I would still use the phrase Asperger's, but it's not the correct terminology these days. But yes, that is what I have. My son, he has autism, but I was diagnosed with Asperger's, which is a form of autism. The only reason why... Sorry, I want to go back to this for a second. Sorry, I'm going to come to you in a second, Carbon. I just want to go back on this one. I understand how you're feeling, Elks, by the way, because we've had to make a point to make sure that our daughter didn't feel like we were not giving her any attention either. Because, when you've got a child that has additional needs, you have to go and do a bit further. And there's a big gauge gap between my two kids as well. There's about 8-9 years between them. So, yeah, we did have a similar thought process where we said we have to make sure here that our daughter doesn't feel like, we're just diverting all of our attention towards our son. But I think the fact that there was that age gap, and the fact that, we'd already sort of not raised our daughter, but, we'd already solely focused on her for so many years, that I think she was more than understanding of it. Red Dinosaur Mother said, "This must be the only football channel in the world where men can feel safe talking about illnesses like mental health and losing your loved ones. Kudos to you, Craig. You're doing a phenomenal job." Thank you, my man. It's important to me. And to be fair, I do think we're seeing a change in how men speak about mental health and how men speak about, not being right. And we do need to keep talking about it. I don't know anybody who isn't within one or two friend groups away from somebody who's taken their own life. And we need to talk more. We need to talk more and understand that it's okay. It's okay to be down. It's okay not to be yourself. The only reason why I say give Slot another year is because I'm a coach myself at a third division college, and I understand what he is going through with tactics not going his way and some players not performing. Yeah, okay, I appreciate that. If I thought that there were signs that what he was trying to implement were happening, Carbon, I'd probably be a lot more understanding of it. But as I said, the biggest indictment for me is that we're now, at the business end of a season, and we're not looking great. We're not looking like we're peaking. I mean, we always try to look back to the Paris Saint-Germain example of them starting the season poorly, but hitting form at the right time and coming good. That's what I hoped for. That's what I thought may happen to us this season, but we just look so clueless. We really do. And I do understand that, yes, the players have to take some responsibility, but I just don't think he's the right type of man to guide the club at the minute. I really just don't. And I do feel like it's seeped into the dressing room. And he said it himself, when you get to this point where people are calling for your head or people are asking you for you to be fired, it never goes away. It always just sits dormant until the next phase of poor form. And for us, unfortunately, this season, dude, we haven't had to wait that long for that poor form to show back up again. But I do understand why he needs to go, because he doesn't make the right changes to change the game, and our backs are on the ropes. Exactly. Look, there's just been so many points this season, dude, where I've been in disbelief at what I'm seeing. Even from players like Virgil, who sometimes just look shaky, and that's not Virgil's game. Yeah. And look, here's what I really struggle with. We know we're going to have a busy summer again. We know the club needs to go into the market and recruit. And I struggle to see a world where we don't hear the same excuses next year if it doesn't start well. Transition. Well, we're 2 years into a new manager. Respectfully, I don't want to be talking about transition. It was a choice not to recruit in the first season. They did that, and then they recruited in the second. So they made the decision. They could have recruited. They could have started the changeover process then, but they didn't. They waited a year, let Arne get his feet under the table, get used to the league, went out, recruited players, and since that moment, we've never looked right. And again, another point I want to get across is, this isn't just this season. Let's not pretend last season was all champagne and Skittles. We won the league and then fell off a cliff. We were shocking. We went down the first round of the Champions League. We lost to Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup, and we lost against Newcastle in the League Cup final. And if I have to look at Alexis McAllister marking another 6'6" or 6'5" player, I'm going to cry. It's just idiotic. The problem is with FSG, they only do something when Beady Eyes and Tommy, Henry and Werner, come for the last home game of the season. We're stuck with the Dutch Benitez till then. Yeah, so I've tried my best, and I don't want to attack FSG, because the biggest issue I had with them was that they didn't back the managers financially. And I can't accuse them of that for the last summer. So I struggle to really... Now look, of course, the owners are the ones that ultimately have to act. But in that regard, I am giving them till the summer before I speak up about that situation, because truly, like what I've said, our understanding is that this isn't going to go on past the summer. And even if you look at what Romano says, he speaks a bit differently to Ornstein in the way he talks about it. So he said that Liverpool will wait for a post-season internal review before making any decisions. Now, that's different to Ornstein saying that Liverpool believe they have the man for the job, isn't it? There was no hint from Ornstein's podcast that there's a review taking place or that there's a possibility of it. Anthony said, regardless of the recruitment, mate, in my opinion, this is just a very poorly coached team with no fight in them. Does anybody think that Klopp or a top coach will get a tune out of these players? Yes, absolutely, sir. I'm with you, Anthony. It was Anthony, wasn't it? My apologies. Yes, it was. Anthony, I'm with you, mate. They are a poorly coached team. I said it when we played Sunderland. There you had a team that made 13 or 14 changes in the summer, came up from the Championship, and looked better coached than us. And their players looked like they had more of an understanding of what was being asked of them. I said it then, and I think the same still applies now. This team does not look well coached. And here's the biggest indictment of it. This team doesn't look fit. And that's something that's been highlighted by many people this year. Under Jurgen, yes, some would say sometimes he ran them a bit too hard. But we were always right up there. We were always covering big distances. We were always competing, and we were always up in people's faces. This season, completely different. And as Stargirl has very succinctly put it, where are the similarities gone? Because Arne was brought in to continue on Jurgen's work, continue in the brand of football that was similar with some small tweaks and changes to it. This isn't anything like the type of football that we played under Jurgen. And I'm sick of hearing him talk about being unlucky and stuff like that. He just has no awareness. So, is there anybody in the chat that feels a connection to this manager? Like I guess I would say on a personal level, although we don't know the man personally. Is there anybody that feels part of that trifecta of fans, player, manager? Because I don't. I just can't. I've tried to force it, but I just can't. I'm just going through the motions. I feel very, very disconnected to the football club that we all love. Michael Dunstan, thank you, bro. Very kind of you. Is fifth spot in trouble if many Prem clubs exit? Not yet, mate. No. I think there's plenty of wiggle room there. Now, I'll have to look back into it after this round, but as we sit here now, no. And I think Liverpool will find their way through past Gala. I'm not really sure what's happening with the Chelsea game. I was kind of trying to catch out of the corner of my eye. I think you guys said it was 4-2, if I'm not wrong. And I think Madrid are still 3-0 against City. So, uphill tasks for both of those teams. Arsenal, you would probably say, will go through against Leverkusen at home. Spurs are out. They're not going through. Then you've got the Europa League teams. They'll probably progress. So, yeah, I think there's enough cushion there, unless there's a monumental fall off. But like I said, I promise you I will check in after this round and see what the coefficient scores are looking like. Everything went when we lost against Wolves. So, yeah. So, again, even over the past 3 games, we've lost 2 of them. And then we beat a much changed Wolves in the FA Cup. Again, twice in a week we've been beaten. Lost at Molineux and then lost over in Galatasaray. What about Newcastle? That they were so unlucky last night. I couldn't help but feel for the Geordies last night. Last kick of the game, quite literally. But you know what? I think they'll give them a game over the Nou Camp. Because of the way Barcelona play, you're always going to get chances. And Anthony Gordon, Alanga, Barnes, I think they'll cause them 1 or 2 problems over there. And Newcastle will leave it all out there because this is their season. You know, this is pretty much all they've got left. They'd be very, very fortunate to climb back up the table to get into the European spots. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a very interesting second leg. Although you would still expect Barca to go through, but I don't think it'll be as easy as some people think. PSG are incredible. Absolutely dominated Chelsea. I think they probably feel like they owe Chelsea one, you know, because Chelsea absolutely wiped the floor with them in the Club World Cup. And yeah, I think they probably want to prove a point there. It's going to be certainly a set of interesting second legs. I almost want to go out 1-0 versus Gala, then lose by 4 or 5 to PSG or Madrid. That would hurt more. Well, look, it feels like we're going to have some painful moments left to go. I do think we'll find our way into the top 5 in the league. I do feel that we will qualify. I think we get knocked out by Manchester City in the FA Cup. And honestly, I don't know what to expect in the next round of the European Cup if we get through and we play Paris. I don't know what to expect. I would hope that the players feel like they've a huge desire to try and put right what happened last year. Second leg at Anfield as well, although that didn't do us much good last season. But that's it then. You know, I'm really struggling to find many positives. Like, remember, can I just remind you all how we felt in the summer and what the anticipation and the expectation and the belief was amongst all of us Liverpool fans. We were talking doubles, trebles. Everybody was talking about this team trying to be built to dominate. And now we're trying to justify being sixth in the league, losing again to Galatasaray, having lost 14 games this season, and we're trying to somehow justify that this is acceptable? Raekwon, how are we, bro? And thank you, mate, for 6 months with us as a member. No one feels a connection to Slot. Speaking about connections, again, I mentioned it last night, but I want to reiterate it now. I owe you lads and lassies so much. The last couple of months have been really difficult on a personal level behind the scenes and for us as Liverpool fans. But last night, I felt so lifted up, so appreciated, and so supported by all of you in what was an incredibly difficult night for us, even amongst our frustrations. The amount of people that took the time to say that they appreciated the community and the channel, it really meant a lot to me yesterday because I didn't sleep much again last night. Like everybody else, probably tossing and turning and just frustrated with what we'd seen. But it meant a lot to me to see so many people take the time to say something nice. And even in the comments afterwards, it really means a lot. I want to say thank you again for that. Oh, it's 5-2 now to PSG. Wow. Wow. That's that's a huge loss. I call Slot the Dutch Benitez as Robbie Keane never left the bench. I just love Rafa Benitez though, Chris. Rafa holds a special place in my heart for loads of different reasons. But yeah, there was times where it was frustrating under Rafa. But we always ground out results in Europe. Even when our league form wasn't great, we found a way. I mean, I think we were the number one side in Europe, ranked for a couple of years under Rafa. Lanchita Mantis said, "Love you, bro. Thank you. This season AA is all we have," said Frank Slater. Dude, without you guys this season, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'd have been able to stick it out. It's it's been tough. It's been tough. But having you guys to bounce off and sometimes just talk shit with, it's really helped. Remember back in August when we dreamed about Prem and Champions League win? I miss these evenings and now I feel empty. I remember having those conversations as well. And I remember asking what everyone's minimum expectations were for the season and what would be classed as a failure. And everybody said a minimum of one of the two big ones. That was the aim for the season. And anything under that would be a failure. Well, we're out of the League Cup. We're still in the FA Cup, albeit with a very tough draw. And we've work to do in the Champions League against Galatasaray. And we're sixth in the Premier League. And this is March. So, fair to say, it's not looking like many of those targets will be achieved. And to see Arne come out and say that everybody knew that this was going to be a tough season. Everybody knew that there was going to be inconsistencies. Everybody knew that the players were going to take time to bed in. Just fuck off, honestly. Every time he opens that trap of his, he just comes out with more excuses and more garbage. No, that is not the narrative. That is not what everybody believed, and that was not what you were all pitching. I really want to know what Michael Edwards does. To me, he feels like a dictator, and his stubbornness is keeping Slot in and is fueling his power-hungry ego. I don't know what this iteration of Michael Edwards does. And I don't say that to be facetious. I don't know. You know, he was brought in as FSG's director of football operations or whatever his job title is, and he was supposed to be helping them to recruit and bring in another club for the multi-club model. Here we are nearly 2 years into that and still no closer to that happening. So yeah, I don't know what he does. And again, like I said, I'm being sincere when I say that. But if it's their fucking egos that's stopping them from sacking Slot, or their own hubris that they think they know best, you can't keep taking fans for granted. You just can't. They should know that by now. Matt Denny said, if Dada was truly behind the decisions, Slot should have been gone months ago. Exactly. I agree. And I don't know or see anything to back up that things are getting better. Michael Edwards bought Markovic and Balotelli. I don't know what to say. Like, Richard Hughes is the sporting director. I don't know what it is Michael Edwards does day to day. But look, ultimately, I don't think Liverpool fans are going to be won over by Arne. I just don't. What does it say about the results tonight? I mean, maybe we believe in our own hype of Premier League clubs. You know, what I noticed was a common denominator in a lot of those performances tonight, from the first half that I seen, from the home sides, was passion and that connection. And the fans, you know, pushing the teams on and them feeding off that. That's what I'd seen in the Madrid game. That's what I'd seen in the Paris Saint-Germain game when I'd watched it. But yeah, it's very fair. I mean, it's a good question to ask because, you know, we dominated the league format as a league, like 5 teams in the top 8 and then all 6 teams qualifying through. Yeah, I don't know what it says, but it's certainly a chastening evening for Premier League clubs, and as was last night for us. Yeah. Craig, PSG scares me. My gosh, that last goal. I haven't had the chance to look at the last one yet. Actually, I haven't had a chance to look at anything after the first 2 goals because I was jumping on to do the stream after the first half. But yeah, they we know what they're about. You know, we played them last year. They're a very, very good side who. Would it be fair to say, folks, that PSG play the type of football that we expected that we were going to be looking to play this year? Now, I know that they've had their own wobbly season in some regards, but they're still top of the French division, if I'm not mistaken, and they'll win that league again. So, yeah, where is our version of that? Because that's what you can go back and watch my streams in the summer. That's what I was expecting this season. I was expecting, okay, Arne's now got the caliber of players and the legs that he thinks we can now play with that high risk, high reward Paris Saint-Germain type philosophy. Nope, we play cowardice football. Keep ball with no penetration. And it's monotonous and it's boring and it's not going to get anybody up off the edge of their seats. Fowler said, firstly, more strength to you for calling it the way it is. Respect every forum that supports Liverpool, but I don't see much honesty in some big ones. Sugarcoat and shite from Arnott and Edwards. Keep it up, mate. Some people like Dominic King, Fowler, think that I say what I say to promote anger and to get Liverpool fans clicking angry to watch videos. That's not it at all. And if he took the time to know me a little bit, he'd understand that isn't what I'm about. I refuse to play the game and just gloss over shite. I refuse to lie to my fellow fans about what I'm looking at, because I think you're due that respect from me. You come in here every night and are kind enough to give up some of your time to have a chat with me about the club that we all love. If I came on here and lied to you, what would that make me? Another piece of shit. So I'm not here to speak badly of any other forums or anything, but I'll never, ever, ever not say how I feel, and I don't give a shit who it offends, because it's not meant to offend anybody. It's just my honest interpretation of what I'm seeing. I'm not afraid to give praise. I will give praise when it's due. I try to keep to my word, but one common denominator on this channel since I've started it has been my chip on my shoulder at the way fans are taken for idiots. And I've said it for years now. And I don't just mean Liverpool fans, I mean football fans in general. We're spoken down to and we're treated like fucking idiots. They think that they can tell us that black is white, up is down, and that we're going to believe them. Some people even say to me, Craig, the club said this. Clubs lie every day because they have to. Clubs have to paint the rosy, positive picture. But everybody should have critical thinking. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that this hasn't been good this season. And I've also said it doesn't take a genius to figure out that they don't want people like me. They don't want people like me saying what I say. They don't like people like me. There's no place in the in crowd for people like me. I've been shunned, pushed to the side and ignored while others have been given plenty of opportunities. And you know what? I've still kicked each and every one of their fucking arses every single season. Why? Honesty. Because people want somebody that speaks to how they feel. So they can keep denying it. They can keep blocking us out. We're going to keep growing. People are going to keep coming and watching because we're going to keep being honest. That's all that is. And some people don't want honesty. It's that simple. Some people don't want... We're all taught to be honest as kids. But in life, when you speak up, you get shunned. You get blacklisted. You get badmouthed. They can all kiss my ass. I don't give a fuck. None of them know me. Craig, do you really believe we win versus Gala at home? Yeah, I do. Because we're a better football team. And it's at Anfield. And it's only one. I truly do, mate. Yeah, I'm not trying to put this on. I really do think we'll win it. But that doesn't mean we're not going to get potentially mauled by somebody else. I just think when you weigh it all up, we're a better side. But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not concerned about the quarter final, or, you know, I'm not going to look at what PSG done tonight and think, oh shit, you know, we've got to be on our A game for that. United fan, Craig, I respect your commitment to Liverpool. You laugh about other teams. You stream when there are two big games on. All you care about is Liverpool, but apparently you need to show up at Anfield to be a real fan. Look, again, I'm not trying to say that, but what I am saying is, look at all the other content creators that cover Liverpool Football Club, and look at the opportunities the club have given them. And then look at us, the world's most watched Liverpool fan channel, and we get treated like we're shit on the end of somebody's shoe. How's that you'll never walk alone? And what have I done that's so egregious? I've said stuff that they don't like me saying. I haven't attacked anybody personally. I haven't belittled the football club. I always do my best to support good causes, charitable donations. I always speak fondly about the city of Liverpool. But I know the game. I know the crack. I speak out, therefore I'm persona non grata. That's okay. But don't give me this Liverpool way bollocks, or you'll never walk alone bollocks, because it's a myth. It's just another tagline. Football clubs are businesses. That's it. We love them. We love the players. We love going. We love the tribalism of it. But we're constantly milked. We're constantly laughed at. Remember this. These fuckers tried to sign you up to a Super League. They didn't give you any communication on it. They didn't ask how you felt about it. You woke up one day like me and you seen the post that Liverpool Football Club planned to join the European Super League, and that's it. Tough shit. They didn't learn their lessons then, and they still seemingly haven't learned their lessons. They can try to make out like Liverpool Football Club fans are behind this manager all they want, but I don't know a single fucking one that truly believes in him. And I take no pleasure in saying that, but I'm not going to sit here and say that everything's right and that this is the man for the job when it clearly isn't the right guy. Clearly is not. Spent £450 million and now I'd fear Bodo. So this season I've tried to stay sane by reminding myself we don't have a bad group of footballers at this club. That is a very, very good collection of football players. But for some reason, the manager's not getting a tune out of them. And it's gone on long enough now that I think the damage has been done. He said it himself, like I mentioned a while ago. He knows the crack. As soon as this starts, it's very difficult. Like, can you think of a situation that any manager has managed to turn around the situation like this in the long term? I think you have to go back to maybe Sir Alex Ferguson, who, if rumour was to be believed, was close to being fired if they didn't win the FA Cup game. And then they went on and won something that season, I think, if my memory's right. And then the rest is history. But Arna ain't no Sir Alex Ferguson. And I can't think of any other manager who's lost a fan base as much as he has that has turned it around and won people back over. Stevie Boy said, what happens if the unthinkable happens at the weekend? On the weekend. We lose to Spurs. I'm assuming that's what you mean. Look, I don't know if Igor Tudor is going to be in charge when Spurs come. I was watching last night and a lot of journalists seem to have the feeling that he could also be fired. But I hope it doesn't happen before we play them, because I don't want Spurs to get a bounce from getting rid of another manager or something. I hope we're the ones to maybe put that final nail in his Spurs managerial coffin. Look, if we lose to Spurs, I mean, that's probably the lowest point of the season, because Spurs right now are the relegation fodder. They're all over the shop. So this should be a gimme 3 points if they have anything about them. Scratching Claimer said, we may actually be the only Premier League team to make it to the quarters. With our defence, PSG are drooling with the idea of Liverpool will be embarrassed. Well, I think Arsenal will get through. I think we'll get through. The other three ties are looking poor. Who's the fourth? I'm forgetting somebody else. Us, Arsenal, City, Spurs, Chelsea. Who's the other one I'm forgetting? I'm forgetting one more, haven't I? Us, Arsenal, City, Spurs, Chelsea, Newcastle, yes, sorry. And Newcastle, yeah, I mean, they're not out. I think they have a chance. I weirdly feel Newcastle have a chance over there. If they don't capitulate and concede an early bagful, I think they'll get some joy. Eddie Howe's a good coach, and Newcastle have the pace to worry that back line. You'd still say Barca are favourites to go through, but I'm going to be a very interested observer of that one. I mentioned it to you guys before this weekend's game, or this midweek game started. I said that's the one I'm going to be keeping an eye on, because I thought that had the biggest potential for an upset, but I didn't see Real Madrid beat Manchester City the way they did. That was crazy. Slot does not inspire confidence. I think he could have just left it after the word inspire, and you still would have been right. There's nothing inspirational about that man that I can see. It would fit our season if we lost the Spurs on Sunday. Look, as bad as things are, even I can't envision that one. We should be looking at a win against Spurs and a win on Wednesday against Galatasaray. Then, we have a difficult run in, and I said this a few weeks back. I think we need to put points on the board now, because our ending of the season is a tough one. We have a tough run in there, and I'd like a little bit of a cushion going into those games. Can anyone remember the last time we heard Slot's chant sung? So, Hellscouser 8, you reminded me of something. Do you remember when there was that one fella on the cop with a banner, and some of the media couldn't zoom in on that banner quick enough to say that there's still a strong vocal support of the manager front and centre of the cop? Well, it wasn't centre for the start. It was off to the right-hand side quite a bit, but I'm being pedantic. And that was, remember that? And they tried to fucking zoom in on that and highlight that for ages. There's one fella holding a banner. One. Harry said West Ham or Tottenham relegation. At this moment, you'd have to say West Ham at least look like they've got something about them. I promise you, like even 2 weeks ago, I thought we were kind of giggling about Spurs getting relegated, but I didn't really think it was likely. Now I think it's absolutely possible. It's very, very toxic inside that stadium when they play. You can hear it, you can feel it, you can sense it. And West Ham have some match winners. Jared Bowen, Somerville, they can win games. They can get them over the line. Yeah, at this moment in time, I feel like it could be Spurs. That's crazy to say, though. Like, I'm almost overly concerned that could do irreparable damage to Spurs with that stadium, and if they didn't come straight back up, that's it's almost unthinkable to think of that stadium even in the Championship. What do you think is the problem with Spurs? Hand on heart, Victor, I don't know, mate. I don't watch Spurs week in, week out. I don't really know. It always felt an unusual appointment going for Thomas Frank. And the reason I say that is, if one thing we've learned about Spurs fans over the years, maybe like the West Ham fans as well, they want their football played in a certain way. They want a team on the front foot. They want good attacking football. And they don't mind some up and down results occasionally, but they want to be entertained. So when I heard they were bringing in Thomas Frank, I was a little bit dumbfounded. Like, he's a very good coach, don't get me wrong, but he's not one that you would have thought of being known for open attacking football. Now, maybe they wanted to go to the completely other end of the spectrum after Ange Postecoglou, but it just didn't feel like the right appointment. Say what you want about Daniel Levy, but he was a fairly shrewd operator. And I don't really know all that much about the new people at the top of the Spurs corporate pyramid. Have you seen Bayern yesterday? I don't want to play them. Elise getting better and better. I love this guy. Company formed a team. Yeah, that was an incredibly good result. 6-1 against Atalanta away, without Kane as well. Yeah, Bayern are a good team. There's no denying that. I haven't looked that far ahead yet, in all honesty, because we're looking at probably the winners of Real Madrid and Bayern Munich in our semi-final if we were to get there. And I haven't looked past PSG. I will say I've sort of looked past Galatasaray, and I'm sorry if that sounds disrespectful, but like I said, we should be beating Galatasaray. But yeah, they're a good team. A good team. That meme guy said, Mickey van de Ven, more Mickey can't defend. Personally, I wouldn't take him. Well, there was a report, where was it? Was it yesterday or today? Bear with me for a sec. I'll run through all the news now in a minute for you guys. Dominic King yesterday said Liverpool are not in for Mickey van de Ven. while the Spurs defender would want to move to Anfield, the feeling is not totally mutual at this moment in time. If there's one thing that I would say has surprised me about Spurs this season is the real lack of leadership and some of the players not showing class at times and, you know, acknowledging the managers and stuff like that. I don't like the look of the way that Spurs team have gone on this season. Right, let me run through the news for anybody coming in a bit late. We've gone through quite a bit tonight, but let me run through it all for you just in case. So, Liverpool apparently are in the market for Eintracht Frankfurt's defender, Namdi Collins. That's according to the Mirror. They say Liverpool remain in the market for a defender this summer, and Eintracht Frankfurt's Germany international Namdi Collins is a target, with Arsenal also monitoring the 22-year-old. Then we broke down Arne Slot's 100 games in charge. James Pearce last night, very quick to post about Arne having a record as equal to Kenny with 100 games. And again, factually, that's correct. But let's dig a bit deeper. The first 50 games, 36 wins, 7 defeats, 7 draws. Very credible. The second 50 games, 26 wins, 16 defeats, 8 draws. A little bit different to the first 50. And the second 50 is after 450 million quid. Then we have the Ibrahima Konate situation. Called Offside have said Liverpool have tabled their most lucrative contract offer yet to Ibrahima Konate in a bid to prevent the defender leaving on a free this summer. Inter, Paris Saint-Germain and Real Madrid are all monitoring the French centre-back's contract situation closely. I've said to you guys for ages, I feel like this is a very important decision. If the club can't get Konate to renew or they can't agree on terms, I think it's really imperative that we go out and bring in a quality centre-back like Schlotterbeck, somebody with experience but still in their mid-20s and able to get another 5, 6, 7, 8 years at the top and maybe become that defensive leader when Virgil hangs up his boots. On Van Dijk, well, he was saying some things last night that I think is a bit worrying. He said, I feel like we didn't give away a big chance that much. We conceded from a set piece, so that confirms we'll have to work to do on that side, but 1-0 down, still all to play for. We gave away quite a few chances, to be honest. He also said, we have to fight, we have to deserve it, we have to earn the next round. Next week, obviously, is the decider. We're at home, but we have to show that we want and deserve to go through, first and foremost, in the way we play, defend and attack. He went on to say, I don't want to blame anything, but we made some individual mistakes. We lost the ball in positions where we shouldn't. And then obviously with the pace and directness they have, they could look dangerous. I feel like we didn't give away a big chance that much. We conceded from a set piece. That confirms we still have work to do, but 1-0 down, still all to play for. Excuse me. Then we ran through... Well, I'm just going to read out one of these because I think this is the one that summarises it the most. This journalist, Hamza Khalik Lunat of The Times, wrote, Liverpool are playing purgatorial football and their fans are condemned to watching the same insipid game week after week. I'm glad that person had the awareness to write that because it's spot on. Goes on to say, the only question is whether there will be some sort of salvation after all of this. None looks forthcoming, not least because there was few, if any, redeeming features to this performance. Beyond the single goal deficit that Liverpool must hope they can overturn in the second leg at Anfield. In hostile conditions, Liverpool wilted. They had chances, but the Champions League necessitates playing with grit or verve, and Arne Slot's team had neither. Now, imagine we were sitting here and I said to you that this team has no grit or fight in it. Imagine that in Jurgen Klopp's era. You couldn't imagine it because it wouldn't have happened. A team with no fight. This team is just second best too many times. We're too soft in the middle of the park and we need somebody to go in there and actually lead. Because I don't see much leadership out there. Didn't see it from Salah, didn't see much from Virgil, didn't see leadership from those senior players. Steve McManaman on Liverpool last night said they were also really vulnerable at the back, which I haven't seen for a while. Anything that went into the penalty area, they looked as if they're going to concede. Steve Nicol slammed Mohamed Salah's recent performances, called for the forward to be dropped after contributing absolutely nothing. He does absolutely nothing for the team, he said. He needs to get dropped again. Does he just say, right, Frimpong starting, Orengamo starting, and Salah, you're sitting? It's actually at that stage where it really would be better. Liverpool are determined to keep Alisson Becker despite interest from Juventus. The Reds want the Brazilian goalkeeper to stay at Anfield until the end of his contract in 2027 and are not planning to sanction a departure. Now, Liverpool have to trigger an extension on Alisson's contract. I think, if my memory is correct, he's contracted to 2026 and the club have an option to trigger another year, which they're going to do. This kind of backs up what I was saying last night about our midfield and quite how poor they were and quite how lacking we were in a combatant midfielder in there. Liverpool's midfield three won just 37% of their ground duels versus Galatasaray. It might be time for something new post-Anfield watch. 11 out of 27 ground duels. That's not fucking good enough. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. You've a World Cup winner in there, Dominic Szoboszlai in there, and a guy who just signed a new 270 grand a week contract. And they're not even doing the hard yards. They're not fighting for the ball. Then there was a report from Bild that said Germany are considering Jurgen Klopp after the 2026 World Cup. Julian Nagelsmann could be on his way out as Germany national team manager. This, from Mark Bruss, said Liverpool are reportedly tracking Bournemouth midfielder Tyler Adams, who has also been attracting interest from Chelsea and Manchester United. Iriola's side could consider offers in the region of 30 million for the USA international. Does Richard Hughes only know how to go back to Bournemouth? Because there's better other midfielders around that I think we should be looking at. Then we had David Ornstein about Ibrahim Konate's contract. He said, I think there's constructive conversation around that one. I do think there's a will on both sides, player and club, to try to find an agreement. It's not there yet, but the conversations from what we hear are continuing and are pretty cordial. Then David Ornstein also said, I expect a wide attacker to be signed like a winger, which I believe will most likely be Andy Amonde. But I guess the big question is going to be, what happens if Salah or Gakpo goes? Then David Ornstein on the Athletic podcast said, Liverpool, from what we hear, are steadfastly behind Arne Slot and he's under contract till 2027 and they want him to be their coach. The hierarchy are determined that he is the man to get things right. If they were looking at recruiting process for coaches, he's said to be the exact profile that they would be looking at, and there's not people on the market that they think better suit what they're looking for. They're happy with him. I'm expecting this to go on and the club to get to the summer in whatever shape. I don't think taking out the head coach is on Liverpool's agenda at all. I don't believe that to be the case whatsoever. Now, again, I'm not trying to say David Ornstein's a liar. I have immense respect for the man. But what I am saying is, just because you get told something by the club, doesn't mean you have to go James Pearce and reiterate any old garbage. Liverpool Football Club fans are not fucking idiots. Liverpool Football Club fans know that Arne Slot is not the guy and that it has been a horrendous season. An absolutely mind-numbingly tedious season full of insipid bullshit football that just isn't cutting the mustard. It just isn't. And no amount of trying to brainwash fans into liking and getting behind the coach is going to make it happen. They need to be aware of that. Don't be that tone deaf. The fans aren't buying into it. The fans are the lifeblood of the club. The fans cannot just continue to be ignored and just served up this dross while you still look for all this money for corporate seats, all the money for new jerseys, and all the money that you want to continue to take from fans' pockets. Fans deserve better. Fabrizio Romano said, the message from Alisson's camp is he really wants to continue at Liverpool despite links to Italian clubs in recent days. He wants to fulfill his contract for one more season. Then we went through Liverpool's last 6 UEFA Champions League knockout matches. Real Madrid 1, Liverpool 0. Liverpool 2, Real Madrid 5. Real Madrid 1, Liverpool 0. PSG 0, Liverpool 1. Liverpool 0, PSG 1. And Galatasaray 1, Liverpool 0. It's not great, that, is it? Lost 5 out of the 6 Champions League games. Carragher said yesterday he's back in slot. I'm sure he did. Was he the same Jamie Carragher that was saying that's a sackable offence when the cameras weren't on him? That Jamie Carragher. Because I am who I am. There's not a different version of me away from camera that has a different take on the manager. So you'll have to pardon me if I don't really take too much notice to what Carragher publicly says. Because, you know, when the camera's not on him and he's as worked up as the rest of us, we've seen how he felt. Fabrizio Romano has guaranteed that Alonso has not signed a deal with Liverpool and dismissed reports of a 3-year contract as false. While there is mutual respect between both, Liverpool will wait for a post-season internal review before making any decisions. Now, this I feel is much closer to the mark than what David Ornstein said. So I agree, there hasn't been a 3-year contract agreed or signed. I certainly have never heard of that. I do think that's the direction of travel, is towards Alonso, and that post-season internal review will be the time where it's bye-bye, unless he pulls out the Champions League out of his backside. But make no mistake, when this season falls apart and we get knocked out of stuff, you're going to see even more vocal condemnation from the fans about exactly what we're seeing. So that is pretty much where we're up to with the news, ladies and gents. Do you think Isak will play this season? I do, Nasir. Yeah, I do. I think we may see him back start of April after the international break. No, maybe middle of April, but yeah, I do think we'll see him to some extent this season. But, you know, I'm certainly not expecting the best of him this season. My hope there is that, look, he gets back playing, we can contribute something for the end of the season, and that we get a fully fit Alexander Isak in the summer that has a full pre-season or as best of a pre-season as he can, and then we see different Alexander Isak next season. Honestly, look, anybody who's backing of the manager, whether it's Carragher or anybody else publicly, why? That's my question to them. Why? What are you seeing that is justifying keeping him on? Because I'm telling you now, if he was in that dressing room, Carragher, 14 defeats in one season, he wouldn't be happy with it. So I don't see why. Look, I'm trying to be respectful, because I have a lot of respect for Carragher. I looked up to the man when he played for Liverpool. He left it all out there on the pitch. But I just don't believe that that's how he feels. I just don't. Like I said, in the heat of the moment, when the cameras weren't on him, when he was sending messages to his son or whoever it was, we seen how he felt. Same as the rest of us. But he can't go out and shit on the club publicly, can he? So, look, Carragher's his own man, but there's no convincing me, and I don't think there's many convincing of other Liverpool fans to be had, or much convincing, I should say. Gaming Dog said it's worrying that we're at the late stage of the season and he still hasn't got us clicking consistently. Yep, that's true. And there hasn't been a time this season where he's managed to get us to click and play well consistently. You know, we were trying to dress up not conceding from every corner as a win. Like, that was it. It was figured out because we'd sorted out some set piece side of it. We're still so wasteful in front of goal. We still look nervous under a high ball. We're still shoehorning players out of position. I'm sorry, but like that gentleman said, Gaming Dog, there's nothing in this to show that it's going in the right direction. Nothing. Again, what I haven't heard from Arna once this season, and forgive me if you've heard it and I've missed it, but when he comes out after matches and talks about this, that, and the other, he talks about how unlucky we've been, but he never talks about what the players haven't done right. He never talks about what he asked of them and what they haven't done. He never comes on and points out what he's trying to achieve, the way he's trying to get us to play. Never. He only talks about possession. He talks about wanting to kill teams with that possession. But he never talks about a philosophy and a style. He keeps banging on about Barcelona and that being a huge impact. This is not fucking Barcelona. This isn't anywhere near Barcelona's tiki-taka style of football or anything even resembling that. This isn't close to a high press. This is nothing. This is insipid, cowardly football. What has actually changed from last season? Midfield has gotten much worse. So, look, I'm a big believer in football, in defending from the front. A big believer in it. And I think we're not doing enough of that this year. We haven't been pressing. And it takes bravery to press. And it takes bravery to commit to that press. Because if you're played around, they're in space and you're in trouble. But you have to back yourself. It's high risk, high reward. And that's the brand of football that Paris Saint-Germain play. That's the brand of football that he professes to be a student of. He talks about all the time. Doesn't like the direction the Premier League's going in. He's a football purist. Well, where is it? Where's our version of this pure football? Because I'm not seeing it. Haven't seen it. Escodia said, I firmly believe the club is trying to pull a PR masterpiece by prolonging Slott's tenure to the summertime. They can drag it till the summer, then they can say mutual agreements part ways. Look, there was even reports, I think it was last month, that were saying that Slot could walk away because he feels disrespected. Now, again, it's just a report. You don't know how much faith to put in it. Gavin, it's 14 losses this season, mate. It's not 13. I thought it was. Check last night. It's 14 losses this season for Liverpool. This one. Yeah. So Liverpool have lost 14 games in all competitions this season. Out of 44 games, they've only won 24. And like I said, we did the comparison as well of the 50 games, the first 50 and the second 50, and the drop off is remarkable. Even last night, and I'm going to go back through this again, just for the Mohamed Salah FC fanboys that think that he never does that wrong and he should never be held to account for it. And this was Mohamed Salah's stats against Galatasaray via StatMuse. 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 shots on target, 0 big chances created, 0 successful take-ons, 0 through balls, 0 crosses, 0 long balls. Nothing. Craig, do you think Alonso would make us a top team next season? He would obviously make us better with the right signings, but I don't know if he could make us Champions League or Prem winning good. That will depend on recruitment. Look, if Alonso comes in, like any new coach, the first season should be given a bit of leeway. And that's what went right and wrong for Arne. His first season, he overachieved. We overachieved. We didn't have that expectation. But we seen what we could do. Then we went out and we improved. Then we come into this season and it feels like the seasons have been reversed. Like this season should have been last season and last season should have been this season. So I wouldn't expect Alonso to walk straight in and not to have some teething problems. But this is where we talk about the fans backing. I think there will be a lot more good grace for Alonso, especially in that first season, where people would understand that we're trying to implement stuff. And I've always tried to say, if in the bottom of my heart, I felt like this team was making mistakes because of a new way he was trying to get them to play, and those mistakes were causing these results, I don't think that's the case. I think that there's individual errors from a team that look like they're not motivated, for a team that often look like they're not as fit as they should be, and a team that certainly are not as physically and mentally robust as they should be. So Mark sent me on the coefficient as of today. Thank you, Mark, by the way. Really appreciate you. So England are still pretty clear with a total coefficient score of 113.352. For 25-26, they're quite a way clear. So England are top with 22.513 coefficient score points. Italy are second with 17.357. Then comes Spain with 17.781. Germany with 18.00. So it's going to take a lot for an English club or for English clubs to fall out of those top 5 places. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say I know exactly how these are calculated or whatever, but I'm pretty confident that 5 spots are going to go to the Premier League for the Champions League next season. You'll Never Walk Alone, or sorry, Yawn, not You'll Never Walk Alone, said poor man management to won't start Chiesa and Elliott last season. He's continued with Chiesa and Rio this season. Gaming Dog said, I think Xabi would get a better fan connection as he knows the city. Of course he would. He'd have many people behind him and wishing him well. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Xabi Alonso's perfect and that Xabi Alonso is undoubtedly going to be a success. I don't think you can guarantee that of anybody. And Alonso still has some rough edges and some learning to do. But the buy-in from fans would be there. Because, again, there's nothing worse than looking around and seeing your fellow Reds not feeling it. Not feeling a connection to the team. Not feeling like they want to watch the games. Like, if that isn't the biggest indictment of where we're at, some people just don't want to tune in to watch Liverpool anymore. They can't put themselves through it. And it isn't because we're not winning. People aren't that fickle. It's a fucking slog to watch Liverpool. What if Xabi had a first 100-game record like Slot? Again, it depends on the context of it, much like it does of Slot's context. If Slot's 100 games were reversed, and the second 50 were much better than the first 50, you'd say definitely we're trending in the right direction. But it isn't. Fritz Frank, how are you, sir? Said, I watched the Arsenal game today, and say what you want, Gabriel dropped to his knees and blocked the shot with his face. He didn't turn his back and throw out a crazy leg. We have no passion right now. I know exactly the moment you're talking about. I know exactly, because the referee stopped the game, went up. And yeah, I thought to myself as well, that's dedication to the cause. On his knees, throwing his chest towards the ball to get a block in. You're right. Not turning it back, not putting a lazy leg out. You know, not afraid to get their knees dirty and get down there in the ground and do some defending. We could, yeah, you're right. Our lads could learn a lot from that style of defending. I want Xabi plus Elise plus Elliot Anderson and Kwanzaa. Thanks, said Itachi. Not sure on the Kwanzaa part. I'm not one way or the other on it. I genuinely am not sure. So I'm open to it, but I think I probably would rather him have another season before Liverpool look at bringing him back. But again, like I said, Canate to me holds the key with centre back and what we need to do in the summer. If he stays, I think he can maybe afford a young centre back. If he goes, you're going to have to bring in another experienced head. Elliot Anderson probably ends up at Manchester City, unfortunately. And Elise, I don't think he's going to be able to be gotten out of Bayern Munich, especially with them playing as well as they are now. I'm sure he's enjoying his football. World of Naturalists said, the worst thing for me this season is I don't have any confidence before any game that we're going to win the game. From believer to doubter, the total reversal of Klopp. Condemn Slot totally. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's very dispiriting. But I just keep coming back to that word, that disconnect. Man United, Diamande is United's top target. His father's dream from the play for us. Diamande is far more likely to come to Liverpool than Manchester United, from what I can understand. So, we'll keep a watch on that one. But certainly, if you were to say who's in the box seat now, I think it'd be fair to say Liverpool are in that box seat. But it's football. There was something David Ornstein said, actually. I don't have the quote here, but he said something like Liverpool were in for Semenyo. Did anybody else see this or have this quote? There was something about Liverpool were in for Semenyo, but he went to City. Now, I can't tell you how I know this because I don't want to get somebody else in trouble. But I know without a shadow of a doubt that Semenyo expected to go to Liverpool. Again, I can't tell you how I know that, but it's absolutely 100% legit that he said it to this person. And he didn't. So if we were in for him, I don't know what went wrong, because the player himself thought it was likely he'd end up at Liverpool. So I don't know what went on there. I'm still trying to get my head around the Mark A situation. How we wanted him last summer, we wanted him next summer, but we didn't want him in the middle for a reasonable fee. Because remember, we talked about 300 grand a week. Well, we've just seen Mark Gay go to City for that wage, but we've seen us give Ryan Gravenberch 270. And Canada is going to want a big wage, and Soboslai is going to want a big wage. So, again, I don't think there's a world where we couldn't have gotten him for cheaper than that on the wages perspective, but I don't know why we didn't move. It really is a head scratcher. United might have Champions League football next season, we mightn't. That won't make a difference for 1 year. It won't. Same way United could still attract players when they weren't in it. And look, Liverpool are in a much better financial position. Like, United might have Champions League football, but they also do have financial concerns. So they've got that stadium that they want to build. They've got needs in the middle of the park, so they're going to want to bring in a central midfielder. Maybe another centre back, and a left back that they have to bring in because Shaw's going to be going. So, I think their need for a wide player is probably not as intense as ours. Gaming Dog, have a good one, my friend. You can see he's turned on the club now. I don't know who that is, Keith. I don't know who's turned on what. I'm not sure what you mean, mate. David, I don't know if I said hello to you, mate, but if I didn't, hello. Thank you for dropping in, my man. Appreciate you. Hope you're well. And thank you for being with us for 20 months as a member, mate. Really appreciate that. The meme guy said, after 400 million spent, I doubt Xabi Alonso would get a big, crazy spending. Well, there is a belief that we're going to spend a significant amount again this summer. So here's the quote from David Ornstein. He said, I expect a wide attacker to be signed by Liverpool, a winger. They were in for Semenyo previously. He didn't come, but I think that's what they're in the market for. So I'd love to know why that one didn't work out. If we were in for him and he thought he was going to be coming. Do you think we can still win the Champions League? Can we? Yes. Will we? I don't think so. I don't have an expectation of it. Especially, how could I sit here with a clear conscience and say a team that was ragdolled again last night by Galatasaray can go all the way and win the Champions League? It will take one hell of a turnaround, but we have it in us, and I think we've got good enough players, but we're just not performing to the level we're capable of. Craig, what do you mean by you'll never walk alone? The Liverpool way doesn't exist. What I mean by is I'm walking alone. Where's the Liverpool way for us? That's what I keep saying. There's no room for a dissenting voice around our football club. So that's my point. As a Liverpool fan who makes content that is the most watched channel in the world, I've looked around and seen other channels and other podcasts and other opportunities given to people, whether it's charity games at Anfield or whatever else. and we have been completely out in the cold. Why is that? It's because we're outspoken. If you're looking at the gestures and the good that we do to our community, I don't think that can be rivaled. We raise money for charitable causes. We give away all the money from our shows. We've dedicated money to food banks. We've given money to the crash victims from the Premier League Trophy Parade. We've helped to raise money for wheelchairs for people. We've brought people over for shows from Poland. We've done so many kind and nice things. But because I'm outspoken, we get left out in the cold. That's really tough to take as a Liverpool fan. And it really hit home with me when we asked could we buy 2 tickets for the Jurgen Klopp farewell thing at the Echo. Others were given interviews with him. We just wanted to be able to buy tickets to be in the room to say goodbye at that show. Blanked. We've emailed the club 3 times asking for clarification on our place in the Liverpool media landscape. Blanked. So it's a bit difficult to feel like you're wanted when you're not. And that's heartbreaking for me to sit here and say as a Liverpool fan. That's what I mean by it's a myth. It's a myth if you are a little nodding dog. If you say yes to everything, you don't question it, then yeah, then maybe you're welcomed. But you dare have an outspoken voice or question the narrative? So that's what I meant, mate. That's what I meant. So You'll Never Walk Alone doesn't exist because they haven't done a collab with you. Trying to understand. I've spent 5 minutes explaining it, my friend. I don't know if I can be any clearer. And no, it's not because they haven't done a collab with me. I'm trying to show you a comparison. It's like, what's the only differential between me and some of these other ones? Is that we're outspoken. Right? So I don't feel loved as a Liverpool fan. I don't feel valued as a Liverpool fan. And I'm not saying that I have any expectation to be, but we are absolutely being treated differently. And there's no fucking denying that. So, yeah, that makes me, as a fan who loves the football club, that tries to bring people together, that talks about the club, that loves all of our community, feel a little bit blanked, to say it bluntly. David said, we definitely need an enforcer in midfield. Yes, we do. Yeah, we do. Embrace said, you speak from the heart, mate. I do, and I don't say anything. Like, I don't come on here and get personal about anything. I talk about football. I talk about the club. I'm blunt and I'm outspoken. But I'm not a bad person. But, you know, you question yourself. You do. You think to yourself, what's wrong with me? You know? And like I said, there's a common denominator. Opportunities are given to people who play the game. Simple as that. Not going to lie, Craig, I hope you don't be associated with Liverpool because I don't want you to change. You might become soft. Look, I don't have any... How do I say this? If nobody was getting opportunities to do stuff at the football club, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. But like I've said, we are, and it's not questionable, the most watched Liverpool fan channel on the planet. The numbers are there. And we're the only ones who've never had any communication. Others have been given interviews with managers, players, press days, played at Anfield in games, been given free shirts, been given tickets to go and watch games, been put on stages in Champions League finals. So it's not like we're sitting here saying, oh, woe is us, we deserve this. I don't think we deserve anything, but I do think we deserve to be treated equally, the same as everybody else. So that's what I said when I said it's a myth to me, because I don't feel like I'm being welcomed in with open arms. I don't feel like we're bad people, but we're constantly just shunned. And it is what it is, like. You know, I've come to peace with it a while ago. When I went to the game this year, I went to see Liverpool Manchester United, and we got hospitality tickets that we bought, and we went to the game, and it was brilliant. The staff were amazing. Everybody was incredible. But there was a moment that stuck with me when I was leaving. I was walking out of Anfield, and I was just coming out of the hospitality area to go to the doors, and there was a gentleman there in a suit that was obviously one of the hospitality managers. And we caught each other's eyes, and he said to me, "Don't be too angry tonight when you go on the stream." And I turned around to him and said, "I'm going to be angry because we weren't good, but I tell you what I will do. I'll be telling everybody how well we were treated here today by your staff, mate. They were amazing. They made everybody feel so welcome. I couldn't speak highly enough of them." And he said, "Well, make sure you say that." And I said, "You have my word that I will." And I did. Came straight on and said it. So, yeah, it is, like I said, it's something we came to terms with a long time ago, but it still feels tough. You know, you love something that doesn't love you back. Did you agree that Vert sometimes tries to play too elegant? In those chances yesterday, he should put his laces through the ball. Certainly feel like I understand where you're coming from. There's been a few times this season where I felt like he has tried to caress it too much. But then again, sometimes that's what's needed. Like if you look at Curtis Jones' wonderful goal against Wolves, I think it was it? Or was it Wolves he scored against? See, the Wolves or West Ham. And he just passed it into the corner. So yeah, sometimes caressing is what's needed. Sometimes putting the laces through is what's needed. But I do think sometimes he may take a little bit too long, one touch too many in the box. But you know, he's a wonderful footballer. Keith said, "We can't ignore it. What Slot is doing. You're right to call it how it is. This can't be good for the club now." Look, I've watched football for 36 years now, 37 years. I've played football. I live football. This is not enjoyable to watch. And it's not even not like Rafa was tough to watch sometimes, but it got results. And you knew it was for a greater good. He knew how to shut up shop away from home, and he knew how to be dogged. And that's different. You understand that. But what we are now, again, is without identity. Because I don't think any of you could summarize in a few sentences the way we play football. And that's, crazy. Because we don't have an identity at the minute. No English side won their first leg. Oh yeah, yeah. I never actually joined those dots. Yeah, Newcastle were so unlucky. I said it last night, man. I'm so unlucky. I felt for them because that would have been another memorable victory for them at St James's Park. Yeah, I really did genuinely felt for them last night because they were so close. Last kick of the game, I think it was Malik Thiaw with an unnecessary lunge at Danny Olmo and penalty, and it was tucked away. Yeah, you want to be made of stone not to feel for them. Yes, Craig, what's going on with Canada? I heard they're still negotiating. Do you reckon he signs? I go back and forth on it, Nasser, mate. David Ornstein today again said that there's goodwill on both sides and the club's still talking. I don't really know exactly where we're at. I don't know what type of numbers have been thrown around or anything like that, or what's been asked. But I hope he stays, because what we're looking at in the next year is a lot of experience and leadership leaving. If we go on the contracts in the way they are now, Virgil, Mo, Allison, all scheduled to leave in 2027. Jones scheduled to leave in 2027. Robertson scheduled to leave this summer. That's a lot of experience gone out of the dressing room. A lot. Now, we've got a good mix as well. You've got McAllister, who's a World Cup winner. Szoboszlai, an international captain, coming into the prime of his career. Gravenberch, 23, still to come into his prime. He's signed up to a new deal. So there's certainly some promising stuff on the horizon. Giovanni Leone looks like an incredible talent. And I do think we will be better next season, come what may, whoever's in charge. But it still doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like he deserves it for this season. This season has been not only a letdown. It's been torturous. It really has. Any chance we could get Ben Jacobs on the channel? I think getting him on would be better than Liverpool-based journalists. I've no intentions of getting any journalists on the channel ever again. To put it bluntly, because I tried it with one of them, and fair to say, it didn't really pan out. So yeah, yeah, that's kind of where my head's at with it. I'm nothing against them. There's some great journalists doing some great work out there, and I will continue to highlight good journalism and good work when it was there. But yeah, for me, I don't really want to bring journalists onto the channel again. We were fed the same narrative by the club about Trent's new contract, and look how that turned out. Ibu hasn't come out to say he wants to stay at our club. I don't know how it goes. Like I said, I really haven't got a clue. One day I feel really confident about it. Another day I feel a little bit. I keep trying to ask myself this though: where does he go? Like, I don't know if Madrid are in for him or not anymore. That story seems to change every week. So if we take it for just a minute, let's say that Madrid have eyes elsewhere, where does he go? And where does he go that's better than Liverpool? That I really struggle to find an answer to. Bayern Munich don't need a centre back. Do PSG really need a centre back? I don't know. If they do, and it's his hometown club, I could understand that, like I've said. But that's it. Outside of that, there isn't really. And even at that, I know it's his hometown club, but we're still Liverpool Football Club. So I'd like to think that he feels he can achieve what he wants to achieve here, but it is getting to the point where there isn't much time left to be negotiating, and the club would want some clarity on it because they're going to have to put some plans in place as well. Could go to PSG if Marquinhos moves on. Yeah, maybe, absolutely. But if that was the case, would you not know by now? See, what I struggle to believe in these situations, much like the Trent one, is that these guys don't know what they want to do. Surely they do. Like, surely by now, if PSG wanted him, he'd know they wanted him. And he'd know whether he wanted to go or not. Because if it's a numbers thing, fair enough. You put your value on yourself, and if you don't feel you're getting the value that you think you're worth, and you can get it elsewhere, okay. But yeah, outside of that, I don't know, I struggle with it because obviously we look at this as Liverpool fans through red tinted glasses, and we think that Liverpool are the greatest thing in the world. Paul Diamond said he's not consistent enough, always has a big mistake in him. So what I struggle with, Paul, is trying to get to the point where do I think he could be that leader? Like, do I think he could be the one to carry that defence? And I struggle with that. I think he's a very good centre-back. I think he's a very high-level centre-back. And I think he served the club very well. And I think he could be a mainstay in the team. But I don't know about the leader part. Now, others, Virgil and stuff in the dressing room have said he is a leader. He's vocal. I don't know. I struggle on that one a little bit. But then again, we've also just had the pleasure of having Virgil van Dijk at the football club. And that's our yardstick for a centre-back, which is a pretty high bar to set. Pasky said, if Ibu leaves, we can safely say we know what route in terms of transfers we're taking. I believe it'll give the next manager even more time due to the younger players developing as an excuse. I don't know, man. Like, I struggle to see the logic, if Canale leaves, of not bringing in another established centre back, because you've got the youth bases covered with Giovanni Leone, Jeremy Jacquet, maybe Kwanzaa coming back if you want to in the future. So those younger bases are covered, but you still need experience as well in the team. So yeah, I don't know. Could they just? Surely they'd have to turn to somebody like Schlotterbeck or somebody of that ilk. Tim's mom was a flatly. Said press conference shows me his level of arrogance. I'm not sure, Tim, mate, who you're speaking about there with the level of arrogance. Paul Diamond said he cost us against PSG last season and he's a follower, not a leader. Well, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I'm going to say goodnight to you all. Again, thank you for another interesting evening. I really enjoyed chatting back and forth with you. Yeah, thank you for your time, as always. We will see you tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow night, Late Night Agenda. We're recording the Anfield Agenda podcast tomorrow as well, so that will be up live on Spotify for you guys tomorrow evening. If you can hit that like button for me before you head off, really will be appreciated. If you haven't subscribed, love you to do that as well. Thank you once again to our sponsor, Surfshark. Thank you to you guys for your incredible support and your understanding and patience. We appreciate it. I'll see